Egypt is over 95% uninhabitable desert. Yet, somehow, this completely barren wasteland managed to birth one of the absolute most advanced, enduring civilizations in human history. The secret is a single vein of water. Stretching approximately 6,600 kilometers, the Nile is the world's longest river, pulling off a rare geographical trick. It flows upwards, traveling from south to north straight into the Mediterranean Sea. But this massive waterway doesn't start in one place. It has two distinct geographical engines. In the south, the massive Lake Victoria pushes out the White Nile. To the east, the rugged Ethiopian highlands generate the Blue Nile. Right between the two, the Blue Nile does all the heavy lifting. It delivers 85% of the total water volume and carries a massive load of nutrient-rich, dark soil down from the mountains. Mixing that steady equatorial water with that specific Ethiopian earth is the exact recipe that made human survival possible in a total wasteland. For millennia, humanity survived here by strictly following the river's natural rhythm. Heavy summer rains in Ethiopia caused highly predictable downstream floods. When the water receded, it left behind deep, black, fertile dirt the ancient Egyptians called kemet. Because their lives depended entirely on these floods, the Egyptians had to find ways to track them. That sheer necessity forced them to invent agricultural mathematics, the 365-day calendar, and the structural engineering required to measure those water levels. The river also served as a massive highway. Without modern machinery, workers moved millions of tons of stone along the water, allowing them to construct towering monuments directly on its banks. The ancients understood exactly how vulnerable they were to this environment. They literally worshipped the river, along with its deadliest apex predators, offering sacrifices to appease a force they could not control. For 10,000 years, humanity's greatest achievements in this region came entirely from accepting their dependency on the river and bowing to its power. That mindset shifted dramatically in the 1970s. Egypt decided they no longer wanted to bow to nature. They built the Aswan High Dam to halt the ancient floods permanently and control the water themselves. The sheer scale of the engineering is staggering. The dam generates 40% of Egypt's power and created one of the largest artificial lakes on the planet. But mastering the river carried immediate cultural costs. To save ancient temples from the rising waters, international engineering teams had to physically cut them apart and hoist them out of the flood zone. The ecological fallout was even worse. The concrete wall trapped that crucial, rich black silt upstream. Starved of nutrients, millions of downstream farmers suddenly found their soil dying, forcing them to rely on synthetic chemical fertilizers just to grow food. By forcing the river to conform to a modern schedule, humans broke a natural ecological engine that had sustained agriculture for millennia. Now, that exact same engineering hubris has moved upstream. Ethiopia watched Egypt harness the water, and they decided it was time to claim their own mastery over the Nile. In 2011, they began constructing the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a mega-project designed to electrify the entire country and trigger an economic rebirth. This segmented bar chart illustrates the terrifying math for downstream nations. That massive 85% chunk represents the water coming from Ethiopia's Blue Nile. With the new dam, Ethiopia is now physically bottlenecking the vast majority of the river's volume. This has sparked absolute panic in Egypt. With 100 million citizens relying almost entirely on that downstream flow to survive, negotiations have stalled and threats of military strikes have been openly discussed. In trying to master the flow, we've stripped the river of its role as a universal life-giver, turning it into a point of leverage that could trigger the region's first major war over water. While nations prepare for a water war, they are largely ignoring an overriding existential threat. The water itself is physically disappearing. Rising temperatures will soon melt Ethiopian snowcaps, causing erratic floods. Once gone, projections show a devastating 53 nations are threatening war over who gets to control the tap, while completely ignoring that the well is running dry. Major coastal cities in the delta sit just a couple of meters above sea level. Without intervention, millions of people face total inundation within our lifetimes. It is a haunting contrast to the peaceful, vibrant life that still hums along the riverbanks today, a daily routine largely unchanged for millennia. The ancient pharaohs understood a vital lesson we seem to have forgotten. They knew that human survival in this desert is a conditional gift of the river, not a guaranteed right. If we don't shift from trying to conquer the Nile to protecting it, the very river that birthed civilization will ultimately watch it collapse.